Okay, so I did ask a question before hitting record, and I'm going to ask it again because I should have hit record. I felt like it was a decent question, but um, when I read what you write on LinkedIn, it seems like you're embodying the future of like the salesperson slash SDR. Do you agree or disagree with that statement?
Um, so I'm just gonna repeat what I told you, but not
Yeah.
necessarily, not really, just because like the way that I work and the way that my personality works is that the larger of a company I'm in, the more friction and like the worse off I'm gonna be. Um, one of the reasons I really excelled in motorcycle sales was because it was like a 5-person company. I mean, there was 3 branches and there's only like 10 people in our branch and there's only like 4 people on the sales side. So
Hmm.
like I could do whatever the fuck I wanted. Um, and when I'm at a larger company that has established processes and they're like very inefficient, which all large companies have inefficiency baked into them. Um, I just like I can't stop trying to improve upon those processes, and it just causes more friction than is healthy for myself or a company. And like to be truly effective, like focused SDR, um, you have to be like really focused and not worried about all the other stuff that I'm worried about. So like that's why I'm at this tiny little company now. We're raising a seed round right now, because like the way that my mind works, I guess, is actually a benefit here, instead of like a detractor, where I
Hmm.
can focus on like 90 million different things. And um, so yeah, and again, I'll say this too. Again, like I wouldn't necessarily encourage anybody to try to emulate what I'm doing. Probably.
Well, only I guess maybe only in the sense that you are just being who you are. It seems like
Well,
we're just
everybody
meeting,
thinks
so I
that.
don't know if you're like always like, beef per minute is your standard operating procedure or what. But it makes for good reading, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, I think the beef per mil. So it's beef per mil, and mil is like a marketing term. I don't remember the uh, exact thing that it means, like per thousand something. Anyway, uh,
Hmm.
I don't know. Again, like if I would encourage people to do that, but like if you look at a lot of the LinkedIn like personalities, like Adam Robinson obviously comes to mind from our B2B. Like he literally, I'm pretty sure he manufactured a beef. Like I know Mark, or I don't know Mark. I know Mark Cosaglow, the guy who he was beefing with, and I'm like,
Hmm.
they made this up. Like they paid some publicist to do this. So I don't know, but it seemed to have done numbers for both of them. So I don't know.
Hmm. I I think of Joey Gilkey. It's like he just to me does a good job of pushing the right buttons and then just like sets it up just to knock it down. And for those not familiar, the new owner of Phone Ready Leads, now Titan X, um, had a beef with Apollo, rightfully so. Apollo does not they they're both in the phone data business, and Apollo does not, in my opinion, offer up very good data. And it seems like you know PRL's kind of beefs with everyone in this regard, probably because he is exposing people.
He is exposing people, but at the same time, I also think, whereas with me, like it might be like some playful ribbing. I think Joey really hates these people. I don't know.
Yeah,
Like, I don't know.
yeah. No, you're yeah. I think yeah. He does more of like going after specific companies and their product, where I think you're tackling more of a general problem, and then just making it funny as well. So Benjamin, did I say it right?
Yeah, that's perfect. I usually just go by Ben just to keep it
Ben. Okay,
simple.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's totally fine. Well, Ben, I on your YouTube, you do talk a lot about like the future of the, I guess what as you see it, maybe your opinion on the future of sales and what the SDR is going to be doing if they exist in the future. I kind of see it as like it's zero gravity right now. Who knows? 2025 can bring anything, and we have to wait and see where all the furniture lands. But
Hmm.
it does seem like the writing is on the wall for this style of selling with somebody who does the cold calling to set appointments, somebody who takes the appointments to close the business. What do you see as the, I don't know, logical next step of where this is headed?
Yeah, so to talk about like the future of the SDR, we really have to go back to the past and how it was originally conceived. Um, and actually not even how it was originally conceived, because how it was originally conceived isn't how it really came to fruition. But like everybody who has SDRs, generally speaking, operates on the repeatable revenue model, and that's a model based on Aaron Ross and predict repeatable revenue and all this stuff, where you have people who go find cold leads or whatever and pass them on to an AE, and the sales process is very much like a factory line, segmented or whatever. And that the problem, and that works. That's just fine. There's like nothing wrong with that. Like, I'm not hating on that model because it works for a lot of people, but it only works if you have product market fit, you have demand that you're capturing, you have good marketing, brand awareness, all these things, or else you have people just grinding away on the phones. Like, you have to be so good at your job to do that without those other supports that it's almost impossible. And when you have like kids who are just coming out of college, or this is their first tech sales job, and you're just sort of really throwing them to the wolves, like that is what's dead to me. Not the idea of like, oh, we're gonna have people go out and build pipeline for us. So like the job that I just started today, like it's my first day, like I'm making some calls, but the product's very simple, and the value proposition is so like no brainer. Like, you know, I'm gonna book a meeting like either today or tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the other thing, not to get too long winded there, but the other thing is like like I'm doing a bunch of so I'm like doing a bunch of different things here. Like, I'm pulling the list, I'm validating the list, I'm like building the CRM and everything. So, and I'm like tied in directly with the CEO and the CRO, and like have a deep understanding of what they're trying to achieve. And like the average SDR is not having conversations with their CEO every day.
Mm-hmm.
So they're very disconnected from the bottom line, and they're not as invested as like I am. So it just doesn't create a scenario where they're really incentivized to win. So that, yeah.
Very interesting. Another reason why I wanted to talk to you was that you had mentioned one time, again, one of your YouTube videos, talking about how basically, because the SDR is viewed as this entry-level person just doing grunt work, that their opinion isn't exactly valuable, even though they're like on the front lines, right? But somebody who is maybe a third party who steps in doing very similar work plus a few extra skills, it seems that the CEO is eating out of their lap in terms of offering advice and what they should do to change. And so it sounds like you're in a unique situation right now where you do get to talk to leadership often, and you have a lot of control over the whole process.
Yeah, I mean, I'm building the process. Like, the CEO is out doing fundraising right now. The other co-founder, Jeff, he's a sales pro. He worked in MSPs for 18 years, and 10 years of that was on in the sales side, but he's never sold a SaaS product. And it doesn't seem like he has like the experience. And Jeff, if you listen to this and I'm totally wrong, I'm sorry, but this is just my my observation. It doesn't seem like he has the experience of like operationalizing a SaaS go-to-market motion, which is kind of distinctly different from an MSP, more relationship-based sales motion. And to your point about like contractors and consultants versus SDRs, I don't really know why that is. Like, I think because most contractors and consultants are like, oh, I'm Mr. Smart Contractor, I'm a guru or whatever, you should listen to me. Like, they have that status or whatever, or at least perceived status. Whereas an SDR, it's like you have to be like, when you're interviewing for an SDR job, you're like, oh, I'm coachable, I'm teachable, I will work really hard for you, boss man. Just give me a shot. When really, you should be telling them to like dance like a monkey for you when you're going to go interview there because they need you. And but I'm not, and it's a buyer's market right now when it comes to employment right now, so I'm not saying anybody should like take that attitude, but like I took that attitude because I have a very specific set of skills that is very valuable. So yeah, it's a messed up power dynamic in most places, unfortunately, and that's why they don't listen. So I don't know if I have a solution there.
Oh, that's fine. You don't have to have a solution. I agree. I mean, I don't think it's wrong for somebody to go into a spot with the mindset of, hey, I'm the asset. This is what I've noticed. I've had success doing that. Bringing ideas to the table, rather than hoping and praying you get the gig.
Yeah.
Because there's no leverage there. But speaking
you
of
do
that,
outsource work, right?
Okay.
You do outsource SDR work is kind of what you do? Yeah.
Yes.
So you are a third-party consultant because like when you're doing that kind of stuff, you're like, okay, you're not just going and making calls for them. Like you sit down and do a discovery and you're like, well, this is what I think is not working and this is what I'm going to do. So like, do the teams that you consult with, do they have SDRs? Do you ever do coaching, or is it just for like founders and stuff like that?
A little bit of both, or all of the above, I should say. Some have had people right now. Like one of the projects I'm working on, they don't, and we're doing the whole outbound motion. And the position that we've adopted is that we're testing, right? There is market fit in that there are other products like it, but there is something unique about this product that's different, right? And so, yeah, I'm finding taking the approach of we're having conversations. We don't need to shove meetings down people's throats. We want to bring back as much information as possible so that who your target is, kind of slowing down so that when the time comes where we can really put the pedal to the floor in terms of activity and really pushing, like we have all the data for that. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's one of the things, and I think I think Kellen too, but that's one of the things he talks about. Like,
market segmentation and.
Yeah, we're going on a journey together. We're doing market research for you. We're not just doing lead gen because we want to leave you with as much info as possible, and not just shove meetings down people's throats that don't lead anywhere. Like we're here to put you in a position to where if you fire me in 6 months, like you have so much information that it was worth the X number of thousands of dollars that you paid me anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, my background is in very mature industries like office equipment, copiers, payroll. That's mostly copiers, and the approach is similar but different, right? It's a lot more in person. You go door to door. You're not necessarily going to set a meeting with somebody. You just need to know, is there a copier there? Who would sign the papers on that, or who's in charge of maybe doing the research? And then you take that back, you collect all that. You're doing like 20 doors a day, put the info in the database, calling on that. And so there's a lot of similarity in the sense that you have to gather the information, call and follow up. But for some reason, I don't know when people thought like you could just because you have a product, we need to meet immediately, right? So I don't know when that happened, if that is like the predictable revenue era or what.
It is part of it. It's part of it. Like that sort of mindset is based on the venture-backed capital, multiple exits, delivering shareholder value, fucking boardroom stuff. Like, it's not based on any sort of reality that really exists. Because when you think about a VC-backed startup, that's not how a business works. A business doesn't just poof into existence with $10 million. Like you have to go
Yeah.
out and make money first. And
Hmm.
so we're skipping the whole validating like the idea, building relationships, going door to door like thing. And we're now we have $10 million and some spam cannons, and now we have to make business happen.
Hmm.
So it's just a totally backwards way to really do things. Now, I mean, of course, it can work, but obviously, or else we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. But it's just not how the real world works. Just think about like how many companies are actually venture backed out of all the companies in the world, like less than 1%. Like I don't know.
Yeah, it's a very small amount, but if you're on LinkedIn a lot, you might think all the companies are like that when it's
Yeah,
like it's just this tiny sliver of the entire marketplace. Um, yeah, that's a very good point. I had a conversation with a buddy of mine. I don't know if you know him, Kevin Hop, and he said something on the show that was really, I think I knew, but he just articulated it really well. That these venture-backed companies are equity vehicles. They're not here to just like employ you.
yeah.
You're there in service of the equity, and then if something changes and they don't need you anymore, it's like you're gone. Sorry, this is really the shareholders' money at play here, and we put millions of dollars into this, and we're going to do what's right to grow that millions of dollars, and then cash out, right?
Mhm. You know what's so funny
So,
about that is he actually has said something on LinkedIn that has been like living in my head rent free, like in a good way for like a past couple of weeks and relating to that. Yeah,
mhm.
and it's pretty much that too. Um, he was like, SaaS startups, venture backed companies, they're not designed to be good employers. Like they're designed to create multiples for the shareholders. And I was like, holy shit, dude, that all makes sense now. Like it was like a red pill moment.
Shout
'Cause
out to Kevin Hop. He's going to be. I recorded with him just a couple days ago, and so be
awesome.
on the lookout.
I'll definitely check that one out. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's just like one of those things that where like somebody had verbalized something that I'd known like deep down somewhere, but not been able to like explain it before.
Hmm. Okay. Well. Okay. So let me, if you don't mind me shifting gears,
Oh, no, go for it.
I started this podcast, Rizz Dev, silly play on words, mostly because it's my view that the fundamental missing piece, at least when it comes to cold calling and selling and all this, is that we're interacting with other people. It's
Yeah.
so basic that it's overlooked. And then we skip that piece and we start jumping right into tactics and techniques and what to say in this moment, and very like Alex Hormozy, kind of soulless selling. Not that I think he's soulless. It's just, I'm not trying to become a billionaire. So obviously what he's offering to people, is different. But,
Yeah.
um, so I say that to say, I'm kind of going to go past that a little bit and actually talk to you about more technical things, because you've shared a lot of really interesting kind of growth hack stuff. I don't really even like that term. It seems like a crazy euphemism, but growth hack type stuff. One that I found was interesting was if you are a new rep at a company. Well, let me just ask you, what would you do if you're brand new at a company as an SDR? Um, what would you do to get started and make sure you have success moving forward?
Yeah, so I mean, it depends on the stage of your company, but since I just started at a company, I can sort of tell you what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And, regardless of my title and who I report to, like I'm basically like in the Slack channel, I have my title as glorified overpaid SDR, which is basically like what I'm gonna be for a while. And you know, I don't know if you're listening to this and you're at a big company, you just started. This probably isn't gonna help you, but I went and got a list. I got a list of like 12,000 people, I think. And I'm just going to go through it like 2,000 people at a time, 200 phone numbers at a time. So, like, I got 200 phone numbers. I'm going to call on these people for the next 2 weeks, probably, see how many I can go to the next 200, et cetera, et cetera. Um, I mean, yeah, it's hard to say, like, because when I was at a big company and I just started, they did all the onboarding stuff for you. I guess and which was fine. Like, whatever. I probably needed it. The one thing that they didn't show me how to do was use Salesforce. And like I'd never used Salesforce before. And they're like showing me all this other stuff, like just stuff that like doesn't even matter, but like I don't know how to use the CRM. So I would just make sure that if you're a new rep, that you know what your priorities are, um, in learning and onboarding and ramping. Like you need to have your own onboarding plan, because it's just my observation that at most companies the onboarding is not like really that helpful. I like today's my first day. Technically speaking, I was working last week too, but like I'm making phone calls, like I'm talking to customers, I'm writing shotgun on deals. Like that's what I need to be doing to actually get ramped, not like I don't know, like reading some product explanation. Like that's the main thing that I observe about onboarding at a lot of companies. I'm actually working with a guy right now on a project for him, and as a subcontractor, just doing like some very fractional stuff for him. But like his deal was that he's revamping this company's sales development motion, and when he looked at their onboarding motion, he said that like 40% of the onboarding time is product knowledge. When there's so many SKUs and like so many different product lines, like these SDRs are not like they're not like product, they don't need to be product experts, they just need to talk to some people. So that's what I would do. I would just get on the phones as fast as possible.
Awesome. I like that. Have your own onboarding plan. Wow, that's really good. I feel like I've always just defaulted to, like, I have something in my head, like I'm going to do so many calls per day to meet the goals that the company has set for me. But you're saying have some goals for yourself first and have your own onboarding plan.
Yeah, because the way that commission structures and payment works at most SaaS companies is they are paying you enough to offset your cost if you suck. And so they don't actually care if you hit your quota or not. And in fact, a lot of companies' failure is baked into the the compensation models, to where they can have 50 reps operating at 50%, and it costs them less than having 25 reps operating at 100%, just because of the way the commission structures work out. And this isn't something the gurus are going to tell you either. So,
free game, please.
This is dark, forbidden knowledge about SaaS companies.
It's the dark arts with Ben Holley.
Yeah, no, but somebody else told me this. This guy had worked in large software companies for a long time, and this is stuff he'd seen. But so they don't actually generally care if you succeed or not if you're at a large company. And I will tell you another thing. A lot of people just want a larger fiefdom. They want a larger department to say that they operated. Like, so if they're like a VP of sales at a Series C company, and this is a real scenario I've lived, they just want a bigger number of reps so that their next job, they can say, I had 50 SDRs and had an operating budget of like 3 million or whatever, instead of just saying like, oh, I only had 40 SDRs and an operating budget of 2.5 million. It's just like another fucking resume point for them.
Oh, wow.
So don't be another resume point for some, VP or whatever. Like, that's
some middle manager somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. That's why you got to take it into your own hands.
That makes sense. Yeah. I just, sorry, just kind of blowing my mind with that. I know that this is logically has to be true, as there are people around us who you can see they're not doing everything that they could do, right? Which I'm guilty of. That's why I can say it, right? I tend to think about it as people, this only happens on this level. Surely the middle managers and VPs and higher up, I mean, they're not sandbagging. They would never do that, right?
No, they would never do that, right?
So, which is totally naive, I just, anyway.
Oh yeah, the CEO is sandbagging to the board. Oh yeah, and the board's probably sandbagging to Bain Capital or whoever the fuck they work for. And Bain Capital sandbagging to the federal government. I don't know. It goes all the way to the top for sure.
I used to work at this is totally, I'll get to a point here. I used to work at Starbucks years ago.
Nice.
And this is in Providence, Rhode Island. And they just started serving donuts. And internally, there was this letter from whoever the CEO was at the time. I can't remember his name. And there was you could just tell this marketing person wrote this thing like, one day I was out, I wanted a coffee, but I just wanted such a little sweet treat with it as well. And I went into this quaint little shop and got a glazed donut. And it was just this whole thing where you could just tell he's just trying to dress up like he probably went to a Dunkin' Donuts and was like, we need to be selling donuts. Why aren't we selling donuts? This is our biggest competitor.
Yeah.
Right. And they just totally dressed it up for, obviously internally, to tell the story, and then probably for the shareholders as well. And I know it can sound cynical, but I just think that it's just reminding me of that. That's probably going on way more than I allow myself to believe.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and think about like at a business that had your best interest in mind. First of all, they'd be paying you like a percentage of all the donut sales, right? Somehow. So they'd be like, listen, guys, Dunkin' Donuts is kicking our ass on food sales. So we're introducing donuts. And since we love you so much, you're already getting 10% of the profits from that store. So donuts is going to add to that. So sell some donuts. But instead, they tell you the tale of like Little Red Riding Hood, Robin Hood, or whatever, about donuts or something. It's just like, we're all adults here. Just like be honest with me. But when you're at a giant corporation that doesn't care about you, it doesn't really pay for them, to be honest. So
yes, yeah, it's easy to dunk on these CEOs, and I enjoy it. But what, in your view, could the SDRs be doing differently? There are two sides of the coin, right? There are the people at the top who genuinely have a business that they want to see thrive, but then they get people coming in the door and just like not doing anything because that's who was available. They interviewed well. What do you think we could be doing differently?
Yeah, so a lot of times people will say, oh, I see this on LinkedIn and it drives me nuts. Like, oh, certain SDRs are lazy or they're not like working hard, and yeah, cold calling's hard. That's why you get paid to 80 grand to work from home, which is like a fair point. Like I am grateful every day that I can sit here. I'm wearing shorts. You can't see from the shirt down, but like I'm wearing shorts and sitting here talking to you and all that kind of stuff. But I think that most of the time when people are looking like they're lazy, it's because they're not operating within their own values to the best of their ability. And sometimes it's because they're not incentivized properly. I think it doesn't matter how much money you make. You probably think you're not getting paid enough, or that's my experience anyway. So that's something you kind of got to get over. But for me, like I know that when I was at Lightyear, which was my last company, and I'm not saying anything bad about them, like, it was a good company to work for the most part. Like there were times where I was not fulfilling like my potential, and I think it's because I was not in the right spot. Where I could build some things and strategize on some things and experiment. And so at times I may have not worked as hard as I could have. So there's a book, I think it's called Good to Great, or Built to Last. I can't remember which one. There's like 2 books in that series. I might be mixing them all up. But anyway, they talk about how like if somebody's not performing, you need to fire them quickly. Because they're probably not performing because they're not bad people. They're probably not lazy. I mean, I'm not saying they're not lazy. Like they might be. Like there's lazy people out there. Like let's be real. Entitled people. I think it's more of entitlement than laziness sometimes for myself anyway. That you need to get rid of them quickly so that they can go find somewhere where they can be more effective and where their talents and skills are valued and will flourish and thrive. And so like I definitely believe that for myself. So I think it's less of a question of like what you should be doing and more about like what values are you embodying where you're at, I guess.
That makes sense to me. I'm not a very disagreeable person, and so I let things like bottle up And so I've worked places and it's like, I'm really not feeling this. I'm having trouble even following the rules because I'm like, this process to me could be better, but it's like, who's listening to me? I mean, this is a 5,000 person company.
Yeah.
Right. And, people have numbers to hit and I want to respect that. But also it's like, I'm having this very visceral feeling of total misalignment and probably shouldn't be here. I should quit, right? So
You probably should.
which I have done.
Yeah.
I'm better at working with myself and working with friends. Like I'm in this point right now where it's like, oh wow, I'm working with like my best friend on a project. It's really cool. Like it's great. I love that. So I think you're right. Yeah, it is hard to balance that. What it is that your values are, what it is that you need, and what you do for work, because the part that you do is so low on the scale, but we're all taught to like go get jobs that you kind of have to do something. So I can see why that happens so often. You're going deep. This is the Rizz Dev podcast. This is what we talk about here.
I'll give you like one more example of that. So like I play video games and like my wife will sometimes ask me like, oh, what game are you playing or whatever, and I'll tell her whatever game it is. Like, is it Skyrim or some like an open world game, right? And she's always like, so what's the objective of this game? I'm like, there's no objective. It's an open world. You go do whatever. You go find something you like doing. Like, do I like fishing? Do I like killing trolls? Like, whatever it is. And she's like, oh, I couldn't do that if there was no objective. And so, but I like open world games for that reason, because there's no objective. I can just do whatever. And so she works at a very large company, relatively speaking. And so like I work at a very small company, and like I can't stand being like another cog in the wheel for that reason. Like I hate being like constricted. Like I don't like it when, for example, like when software doesn't work properly, or like I don't know if I'm just going off on a tangent here, but like I have HOA software, not for my HOA for the house that I live in.
Yeah.
And like it's just so frustrating. It was so frustrating, and like I know what it should be doing, but I can't make it do it, and it like makes me physically upset. And
just like an HOA does.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but that's what it's like working in a 5,000 person company. Like, so yeah.
What I'm gonna ask another like technical question. I'm gonna treat it like
Sure.
as like the tech expert, because I'm not like a Luddite, but I do kind of feel on the outside sometimes. Like I'll be watching, I don't know, a YouTube, and it's somebody sharing their screen, but it's like it's different than a Loom, and I'm like, what are they using? And then I find myself looking for stuff. I'm just prefacing to say, what are some tools that you think SDRs and salespeople should be knowing for the future, like just to kind of protect themselves right now? I mean, obviously selling and hitting your numbers is protection enough, but I think on some level there is a wave coming that companies in and of themselves want to automate certain things, whether we like it or not. And I think there's a threshold that you need to be beyond in terms of your ability and skill sets technically in order to stay in the market in the next 5 years. I don't know if you agree with that statement, but I'm curious what you would say to somebody, new things you should know. For example, I imagine you might say clay or something like that.
Yeah, I mean clay, and I'll tell you real quick why somebody should learn clay. Well, because I really believe that like your list is your strategy. Tactics, plays, whatever you want to call them. Like, of course, those are important. Scripts, obviously important. Like, I have a script that I like to use that I think is very effective for cold calling and stuff. But like at the end of the day, if you're not talking to the right people, it really doesn't matter. So one of the things that I use clay for, and I've done, like I've made not like a lot of money, but like some money just making lists for people, a very specific targeted list. So one of the things, the joke that I use is like, I'll find all of the dentists in Texas that have more than one office. When somebody's like, "Oh, so what do you do with list building?" And I'm like, I tell them that. And so that skill is applicable at any company. And there's other ways to do it other than Clay, but Clay is just like the easiest way to do it that I know of. Um, and as more and more data becomes more accessible for particular data points, like do they have more than one office, as more services pop up to cover the gaps there, that skill is going to become more valuable. Like, I'll give you one other example. There's a service called shovels.ai, and it's a building permit API. So if you want to know who's breaking ground on something somewhere or building, I don't think they do residential permits, but like if they did, like you could know who's building a deck in Wisconsin. So
Whoa.
yeah, so it's pretty crazy. And
Hmm.
so like I said, I don't think they do residential, but like if they did, you could find that out. But and so like that's why I think somebody should learn Clay. Um, other like software tools, I don't know about like particular tools, but I would say that knowing how to do an API call is very valuable. Like, there's a bunch of different like little automations that I've done in my side business and that I want to apply to where I'm working now. Like, I'm trying to hook up all these different Slack bots so that I can get everybody can get a Slack notification for like CS tickets, meetings booked. We don't have to go into the tools. It's all in Slack. Most of this stuff's no code now, but there's a couple of where I'm going to have to program um, a very simple like API call. I'll finish this off by just saying like learn how to use ChatGPT to code, because I'm not a coder. I did not know how to do any API calls or anything. Like every time I have a problem, like, oh my God, ChatGPT, why isn't this API call working? And it's like, oh, it's because you put a capital letter in the header, and API keys don't have capitals. And I'm like, oh, thank God, now I know.
Okay.
Um,
Are you using Cursor as well?
Yeah, so I've downloaded Cursor and checked it out. I don't really have a need for it
Hmm.
yet because I'm not programming like full stack apps. One day when I start my own software company, I probably will need it. Um, but that won't happen for a while. So yeah.
Right on. Again, the Rizz Dev podcast. I believe that part person to person partnerships is like the new just skill to learn. Not that people haven't been doing it, but we've gone through more than a decade of learn to code, um, and so now we have all these people that know how to code, which is awesome. Um, but your ability with people, I think, is going to be paramount. Team building, all these different things. I mean, even like the best schools in Palo Alto, where these people are on the vanguard of new tech, have industrial age schools
Mhm.
teaching, you know, I don't know, teaching things the old way, in my view.
Yeah.
And I've just been thinking about this because I have three boys. One's in kindergarten, and he's going to be going to first grade next year. And we're looking at all these different methodologies of teaching, and I kind of just feel like they need to know like the most basic things, and then be very well rounded and willing and able to learn new things quickly, and can partner with other people and sell. Right? Maybe I'm just biased because I'm someone who sells myself, but that's my point of view.
Yeah. I mean, sales is a life skill too. It helps you in every other aspect of your life. But the thing about the coding is, yeah, it's so funny. And this isn't an original thought by me, but everybody for the last 10 years is like, oh, you need to learn to code if you want to have social mobility. And then like some asshole comes along and creates an AI bot that like codes for you.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
thought that like the taxi drivers and the restaurant workers were going to get automated first. And to a certain degree they are, but like who actually got automated away fastest was the fucking coders. Like,
crazy.
yeah, nobody. I don't think anybody would have predicted that 10 years ago either. And so, like, the value of a coding skill is like gone to zero because you have idiots like me who like know how to code now, and I don't. So, um, very interesting development there. Um, and to your other point, like the best entrepreneurs are definitely technical and like people oriented. And I was thinking about it while you were talking, like you can have like the best invention in the world, like, but if you get beat on distribution, like you're gonna lose every time. So
Mm-hmm.
and I know people have had great products who get beat on distribution at every turn, and you know, their business fails because of it.
Nice. I should have asked this at the beginning, but how did you get into? How did you go from motorcycle selling all the way to basically, RevOps professional? What's the
Uh,
story?
yeah, so I wouldn't call myself a RevOps professional because I don't know how to program Salesforce, and I feel like that's part of the RevOps professional title.
Ah, okay.
Real RevOps pros will get mad if I call myself that.
Titleflation.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a RevOps enthusiast, is what I would say.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. Um, but well, so how did I get into it? There's not really like any magical story. Like, um, selling motorcycles is really fun. It is retail sales, however, though, at the end of the day, and the hours really suck. And like I had to work every Saturday, and I really had to work 6 days a week if I wanted to get anything done. And like right now I'm working 6 days a week, but I'm like doing it from my living room in my shorts. So it's a little bit different. And I'm not in the Florida sun. Like selling motorcycles, you're actually like pushing bikes around a parking lot a lot in
Oh
jeans
wow.
and like boots. So that part sucks. And I mean, how I got into it was, I shot out some applications and I got an interview at PandaDoc, and I mean, I did pretty well at the interview, I guess. Because they hired me. And then, here we are. So yeah.
Were you more of a technical minded person before PandaDoc, and did this all just kind of fit together?
Well, yeah, because I mean, before I did motorcycle sales, I'd run a recording studio out of my house before, and I worked at some recording studios. I worked at one very interesting company called TrueFire that was actually a software startup that I really didn't know that at the time because I didn't know about that. But they had a software product for music education, and
Mm-hmm.
we recorded artists coming in and doing instructional videos, and like their tablature and notation would be synced up with our software, so somebody could go learn the music. And
Mm-hmm.
they had a whole software department in there, and but anyway, and I helped build the recording studio. I did video editing and music editing and stuff like that. And I'd always done like more technical stuff, just besides like being a musician and music producer and things. Like when I was running my own studio, um, I think sort of the genesis of like what got me into tech sales, like now looking back on it, was like the first time that I booked a client off of an Instagram ad. And I feel like I've been like chasing that high ever since.
Yeah.
Because it was just like I didn't even know it was possible. Like I did not know that that was even something that I could do. And like to generate money from nothing almost like that uh, was like a very transformative experience.
That's awesome. I've used TrueFire quite a bit.
Okay, yeah, so you're
Uh,
familiar with them?
yeah. Did you meet the musicians as they came in, or
Yeah, yeah.
is it just like
I
your?
was in the studio with them
Oh
in
man.
St. Petersburg, Florida, so I met all of them. I met some people who I really admired. Alex Skolnick comes to mind, and got to work in a very removed sort of way on a lot of other people's projects. Like I wouldn't take any credit for them, but
Hmm.
yeah, I got to get in there and like see the insides of it. So yeah, it was very interesting.
Did you ever meet Robin Ford? Does that sound familiar?
You know what? I know who Robin Ford is. I don't think I ever met them.
Okay. Killer guitarist. Used to play with Miles Davis on tour, like in the '80s. So like post Bitches Brew and everything else. So good. It's like he's playing the blues, and then there's just these little jazz licks in between. It's so good. But I've subscribed to his True Fire lessons, and he just starts from the. I mean, he starts from the absolute basics and doesn't talk down to you in the video. It's just great.
Yeah.
It just talks about the guitar and how, I don't know, are you a guitarist? Are you multi-instrumental?
I was a bass player. Am a bass player primarily. As
Nice.
far as, I mean, I can play the guitar. Like I've recorded guitar and stuff, but I'm not really a guitar player.
I wanted to play the bass really bad. And I grew up going to Baptist church,
Yeah.
like Southern Baptist church. And my mom was like, the bass is the devil's sound.
Why?
We don't play the bass. And I don't know if you grew up. Did you go to church as a kid or anything like that?
No, not really.
Okay, that's fine.
Why don't they have bass players in Baptist church bands?
They do I don't want to go down this path. In different churches, yeah, they have full bands. Like we went to the church that didn't have a full band. We were just like piano, organ, choir, maybe an acoustic guitar. I also went to school at this place. I would bring my electric guitar with me on some days because I would go to my lesson after school, and I had a teacher that was like, could you please remove that from the room? Like it was possessed or something. A friend of mine had a dream that the guitar was possessed, and just wild. Anyway, I'm not trying to, like, no disrespect. You can believe what you want to believe.
Yeah.
But that experience is the thing that really opened me up to music and the arts, generally speaking, because I really did wrestle with, like, is it actually wrong for me to, like, play Jimi Hendrix or, like, watch the video of him, like, lighting something on fire, like he's conjuring something up, or is this just a performance? Anyway, this is all, I'm going on a tangent here, but I love music and the arts for it. So, I mean, if I didn't go there and have these weird experiences, who knows where I'd be now or what I'd think.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a interesting, like, in some ways, definitely like powerful experience to have grown up like that. And, yeah, I mean, those sorts of, religious, I don't know, opinions or viewpoints are interesting because, like, in a lot of ways, like, the world is very corruptive and, like, there are many bad influences out there. But I think at the end of the day, we just have to reckon with them in our own way. And, you can't really protect anybody anyway. So,
yeah, exactly. I know you got to just do your best to teach the youth what's best to do, because it is definitely true. There are certain things that you can do that can totally ruin you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where's the threshold for, like, I think it's okay if I play some AC/DC really loud, in my room on the guitar. It's probably okay that I was playing Mortal Kombat as an 8-year-old,
Yeah.
I think, I haven't done any fatalities, or anything like that. So anyway, I'm going off the rails here. Ben, I appreciate you joining me, man. It's good to talk with you.
Yeah, you too, man. I'm super stoked to be on the podcast, and hopefully, the rest of your guests work out well. And yeah, let me know if I can do anything else for you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I hope I have you back. We can talk more, especially about the beefs. I feel like we should just, anytime there's a beef, we should have a breaking Rizz Dev podcast. Just like a 10-minute. Okay, let's talk about this latest LinkedIn beef.
I might be down for that. I don't know.
That could be really fun. Just like some side commentary, because anyway, appreciate you, man.
Awesome. Yep. Appreciate you too.